Awesome, awesome. What is up, everybody? Happy Friday Eve. Welcome to another episode of Assets Over Money, episode number 8. Today we're doing things a little bit differently, I would say. Usually just me and Kevin. We've been saying for the last few weeks that we're going to bring you a guest. And we wanted to make sure that we brought you somebody that was actually, I'd say, worthwhile, somebody who is making waves in real estate, at least that I think. He probably would say otherwise, but I think that he's doing a hell of a job, doing a lot of great stuff. But yeah, before I bring him up, before I bring up Kyle, really wanted to say what's up, Kevin, man. What's going on, man?
Hey, bro, just out here getting wins as an Eagle. We getting wins, bro. Big wins for the Eagle.
Oh man.
No, that's what we're doing. We in the NFL season. That's what it is.
Man,
I mean, I know Dallas guys ain't talking big. I know.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that about those Eagles, bro.
Everybody quiet. So y'all know what it is. Don't get quiet.
I'm holding on for dear life, man. My Dolphins have been stinking it up a little bit. We can smell the playoffs, but it's like far away, man. We need a lot of good to happen for us and a lot of bad to happen for everybody else.
Yeah.
We got to win out. We've been happy. We're every time they've been saying for the last 2 weeks we need to win out the rest of our season to have a chance. We lost the last two, so we will see what shakes up.
It's all good.
It happens.
Who you rolling with, Cal?
Cowboy Nation, of course, brother. Of course, this season's been a little tough. My fantasy season has been dictating that I'm more of a Lamar fan than anything right now. So hey, I'm rooting for the boy Lamar moving forward right now until the Cowboys figure. Yeah. I'm a substituted Ravens fan for now, subject to change.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I like Lamar a lot. Lamar's balling.
Yeah, I got him on fantasy. He's been making waves too. I'm in there in the playoffs. They all start this week. They started last week. I had a bye because I was first place. So we're fingers crossed that this continues.
I did not make playoffs, but I did not come in last. But this is my first year playing fantasy and probably since high school, and so I was just happy to not come in last.
That's all.
Yeah, I need first or second place because we all put in. I think we all put in this league 50, and it's I think it's either 8 or 10 of us.
Oh yeah.
And I think we either said first place wins most of it, and second I think gets their money back. So we want one of those ruthless leagues. Because I know I'm in another league where it's first place gets the money, second place gets the money, third place gets a little bit of money, get their money back.
Yeah.
But hey, we ain't come here to talk about fantasy football, man. Really wanted to introduce you guys to Kyle Cheek. He is a real estate investor based out of Dallas who specializes in wraps. Now, I could talk all in all about wraps, but as opposed to doing that, really, Kyle, the floor is yours, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what's your journey, what kind of inspired you to kind of get into real estate specifically?
Yeah, so my real estate career started very early on in my life. I got started in real estate when I was 18. I actually got licensed when I was 19. Started off just as a traditional agent, moving and grooving, selling some retail houses and doing showings and open houses, stuff like that on the weekends. And one thing led to another. I started doing pretty well, sold 12 houses that first year as an agent. That's pretty good for a 19-year-old who, even as a first-year realtor. And ultimately ended up getting recruited to a team that solely focused on hedge fund acquisitions. So here in DFW, we were the exclusive broker for one of the larger SFR, single family rental funds buying throughout Texas. So at the time I was doing, this was right during COVID when everything was just stupid as far as, volume of transactions, percentages ARV, all the above. This is the time when houses were getting 40 offers whenever they were listed. And we were beating all those 40 offers because we had the institutional money, and we were buying houses at 115 to even sometimes 120% of ARV, right? So we were doing around 50 deals a month, and we were a team of only 3 or 4 agents. It was awesome. I got to learn a lot of transaction volume, and really learn acquisitions. This is the time when I started kind of building up my reputation and network of wholesalers here in DFW as well as Houston. And, I did that for about 2-3 years, but one of the reoccurring themes that I kept realizing, especially as I started, because most of the agents on the team would only buy properties on the MLS, I started picking up momentum and going off market. And so I'm over here getting my, stepped on 3% commission that really wasn't even 3% because we were rebating back a percent of the commission over back to the funds. So I'm getting a stepped on 2% commission. And I'm seeing these wholesalers who, at this point, I've been an agent for like 3 years or so. And I knew real estate pretty well, especially since we were handling so many different transactions. So, I was really on top of everything. And I'm seeing these wholesalers who just didn't even know what the hell they were doing. But I'm making $2,500 per transaction, and these guys are making, 15, 20K. And so it took about, 3 or 4 months of that and just kind of getting burnt out from the number of transactions and still not enough pay, to where I ended up just leaving that team and basically just switched sides of the table, the closing table. So this would have been probably about 3 years ago, December of 2021. I left that team, started at that point I already had wholesalers, like my network built up. So I mean, I'm still receiving deals. And instead of working it as an agent, all I would do is send it to my same team that I was on. They would submit it through the hedge fund process, and I just switched over to basically a Dispo JV partner for the wholesalers. And that very first deal that we did, probably about 2 months after leaving the team, I took home my share of a 50K wholesale fee. So I took home half of that, and it was just off to the races basically from that point forward. I really was, my background and my
can I say something real quick? Hold up. You said, I just want to make sure like we heard that correctly. You said 50K wholesale fee, your share of a 50K wholesale fee, correct?
Yeah. So my very first wholesale was a 50K fee with a guy who to this day I still run deals with, so he still to this day will work on deals. I think we just closed one. We actually closed a sub 2 like a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
And we're still always working on deals.
And when you did that, how old were you when you did that first fee?
I was like 21, 22. I didn't know what to do with that much money in my account. Actually, what I did was take off out of the country for 3 years, basically.
Exactly. Hey, I know it's talking about that. Where'd you go, man?
Yeah. So, left the team in like November of 2021, did that first wholesale, kind of founded my company December 2022 or December 2021. January 2022, I had a one-way flight to Colombia and was posted up there for about 4 to 5 months. At this time, I was just still turning and burning hedge fund deals. This was like the heyday of, hedge funds buying. And I had pretty much an exclusive, like kind of gate kept relationship. Nowadays hedge funds, everyone who wholesales can reach out to Amherst or Open House, some of these big funds who have a really big kind of like branding and presence amongst wholesalers now. But at the time, no one could get connected to hedge funds unless you kind of came from that world. And so went to Colombia, was still wholesaling out there I was wholesaling here in Dallas while I was living in Colombia. The original plan, as I was going, me and my buddy were going to backpack basically all of South America for a full year, and trying to start a company while trying to also backpack is not very plausible. And so it ended up being just staying in one place, still being able to have like a normal routine and schedule, was really important to both of us. So, we would still do all the same normal stuff we do here in Dallas, wake up, go to the gym, jump in the office. Only difference was everything was just virtual, which at the time I knew I could go virtual because whenever I was leaving the hedge fund team, I was actually doing more deals in Houston while I was in Dallas than I was in Dallas. And so I was like, if I can do deals in Houston from Dallas, then I can do, deals in Dallas and Houston and anywhere else from anywhere on the same time zone. And so I posted up in Colombia for a while. The backpacking journey didn't really pan out because I was trying to build a business and make money at the same time. And so we ended up staying in Colombia for probably about 3 or 4 months, and then ended up going to Mexico City, which is where I stayed for the last probably about 2.5, 3 years. Just moved back to the States early this year. One of the big things that kind of happened to me while I was out there was I had the rug pulled out from under me when it came to my hedge fund business. So in June of, I guess, 2022, right? So I'd already spent 7-8 months living hot in Mexico and Colombia because I could literally copy and paste emails from wholesalers to the hedge fund reps and make 15K per deal and could pop out 3 or 4 of those a month without even, really having to work that hard. And then the Fed dropped the rates by like, I think it was 0.75 basis points, and all the funds, I think we had like probably 4 or 5 deals under contract at that time, terminated all those contracts, said, nope, we're not buying anymore. The money just got too expensive, and we have to reevaluate all of our metrics and our buy box and everything. Right. So this was the time. At this point, I was already a sub 2 member. So I'm in the Pace Morbid group. And I was already in that before I ever even left for Columbia originally. But the only reason I even joined sub 2 to begin with was because I had already found success basically running Dispo. At the time, it wasn't considered Dispo, right? I was just slinging deals to hedge funds. But I had already found success running Dispo. So I wanted to build up my network of more official, more serious, because I was working Facebook and just talking to a bunch of wholesalers. And so I was just trying to gain access to a higher level of community of wholesalers. And so I joined sub 2 very shortly, like around that same time frame if I did that first wholesale deal, like right around there. So I had already kind of known about creative. I have one thing I've always done is seek out like local mentors who maybe aren't big on social media or anything along those lines, but they've been in the business for 30, 40 years, and they know everything, because they've done it. And so I was already familiar with like specifically owner finance, not as much maybe as subject to, but whenever the funds stopped buying, that's whenever I really pivoted into, I wouldn't even say at this time, whenever they stopped buying, like that first Fed drop, I didn't fully pivot in sub 2, but I definitely started to take more of a look at it and, try to put some deals together, things along those lines. I survived with some of the, like, not all hedge funds completely stopped buying, right? There were still a few hedge funds that would come in and buy deals, and I could get them, I could get at least 1 or 2 sold every month, but it wasn't like as scalable and as fun and awesome as it was before. It was actually turning into a lot of work, and here I am living over in Mexico. And so ultimately I decided to move back to Dallas at the beginning of this year because my main priority was to move back and start buying myself and start building out my own portfolio. One of the drivers was I realized how much I loved living, free of location, right? Like being able to just live wherever you want to live, regardless of where your business is or anything along those lines. And I realized that if I really want that life long term, I need to have a foundation of appreciation, of equity growth, of most importantly to me, cash flow. And so moved back to Dallas. At this point, I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything. I'm a realtor as well. So, I'll still pop listings from here or there. Just doing regular traditional wholesale, still running Dispo for other people. I kind of built out a regular buyers list, or really good strategic partners who have really good buyers lists. So the same guys I've been dispoing for a long time, I'll just kind of middleman it to my, any other people in my just small network, so to say. But started, really getting into the sub 2s. I started off just kind of wholesaling them, but I was on the acquisition side. So I didn't really know how to dispo them or anything along those lines, but I would go, and I've always been really good from having my agent background at talking to, whether it's realtors or sellers, right? Which I think a lot of wholesalers, especially new, struggle with talking to agents specifically. Sometimes sellers can be a little bit easier, but agents kind of have their own language. And if you don't talk to them in their language, they more than likely aren't going to appreciate the conversation very much. And so I actually got my first sub 2 by agent outreach, just calling MLS listings, structured it with the agent. And then I had another guy here in Dallas that was a part of sub 2, basically dispo it for me. And I still wasn't crazy about like wholesaling sub 2. So I was still messing around with the hedge funds, things along those lines. But ultimately, beginning of this year, I have a really good friend and partner who does real estate here that kind of introduced me to the I-10 space, which is independent taxpayer identification number, the homestead buyers that are looking for owner finance properties. And at first what we did was we took an overpriced sub 2 that no one was obviously going to buy as like an investor. And we just sold the subject to a homestead buyer, right? So we didn't wrap it or anything along those lines. We just made like a fee based off the down payment. Help someone else help someone else move their deal by bringing a homestead buyer to it. And I was like, oh damn, like this is a if we can bring buyers to other people's deals like that, I mean, we can bring buyers to our own deals all day long. And my boy Abel, who's here in Dallas, he's really the one that has that niche built out. And so we just started, as soon as we did that first one, I saw what the play was, started looking for owner finance deals, looking for, subject to properties on the acquisition side, whether it's, we look all over the place, I mean, we'll buy deals from wholesalers, we'll buy deals from agents, we'll buy deals direct to seller, we'll buy deals off the MLS even, and so the first one that we did, we just scooped up an owner finance deal, direct to seller. That same seller ended up having 4 more properties that as soon as that first one went well, and he's a retired, kind of tired landlord, he's getting older now and doesn't want to have to keep dealing with his rental properties, but he loves the cash flow and he already has them all paid off. And so we were able to structure deals where we're giving him still 6% interest, which is a very, it's a very competitive interest rate for owner finance. I feel like most, the community always talks like trying to get the 0% interest, 2% interest, all this stuff like this. That's, sometimes those work, right? But, we're with the wraps that we're doing, as long as it makes sense for all of us, then, we'll go all the way up. We buy 6% interest deals all day long. But we ended up taking that same seller, completing the first wrap, and then he ended up turning over all his properties over to us. So on Monday, we'll be closing the 4th one with him. And then we have a 5th one with him under contract already that we're marketing. And what's great about him is he knows exactly what we're doing, and we don't have any mortgages or anything like that. So we actually double close those with him. So, I mean, he knows that we need a marketing period. He knows all these things. So we'll just put it under contract at the terms that we want to shoot for with him. And then we honestly kind of run it like a listing. We'll just come back, bring it to him, say, hey, we got a buyer locked in, but they want to be at this price. They want to be at this interest rate. Well, we don't tell them what interest rate, but we tell them like, hey, we need to lower our interest rate with you so it makes sense for us, and so on and so on. And it's been a really good relationship with him because we've been able to turn, 4 properties already into notes for us, where we made some, we shoot to make some money on the down payment, but we don't always make money on the down payment. I mean, a couple $100, something like that, just in origination fees. But sometimes we will make more like assignment fee type of fees up front, where we'll make, $15K off of the arbitrage or the delta or the difference in the down payments between the first position and the second position. And yeah, man, I mean, we just started turning and burning those. The first one we closed was in, I think, July, something along sometime around July. Fast forward to now, we've already closed. I think we have 8 already fully closed. Some of those we haven't fully wrapped yet. So they're just, ones that we bought already on the front end, and we're just working to bring a homestead buyer to now. And then we have like another 4 or 5 under contract. So we were able to start utilizing private money lenders to come in and help us fund some of the deals so that we didn't have to be limited by our own capital. Because a lot of times what we'd have to do is if we had to buy it and close on it up front, we'd have to wait until we wrapped it to, get back our capital and keep it working like that. But by utilizing private money lenders, we're able to, even if we have our capital tied up in a property, we can still go buy capital or still go use someone else's capital to buy these other deals, so we don't have to miss out on good opportunities. And then some of our private money lenders, like us, we don't want to leave any of our capital in the deal because we don't have just a shit ton of working capital. But some of our private money lenders, they have more capital than, they know what to do with. And so they're okay with leaving capital inside of a deal. For example, like if we buy a deal for that, the entry fee is going to be $35K and we're only going to be able to get like a $25K down payment on the back end. Well, the investor will be okay with leaving that $5 to $10K inside the deal and just having it paid out, long-term via the return on the notes. So that was a lot. I don't know if you want to.
No, that's perfect.
Questions. I can go into things a little bit deeper or whatever it may be, but yeah, that was a lot of freestyling right there.
No, man, I think that was awesome. You definitely, I definitely have a lot of questions. So I think that was awesome. Hearing your whole story from start to finish, where you are, I feel like I know you even deeper. I know we talked a few times before, but I guess first things first. I know you mentioned wrap a lot. I know we know what that is, but could you explain like wrap, break it down Barney style? So if you were explaining it to somebody.
Yeah. So Wrap is one of those things that sometimes gets confused because technically a subject to, I'm probably going to not explain it Barney style, but technically a subject to is a wrap, right? So that's just someone else taking it, wrapping the mortgage and selling it. So a wrap is just whenever you take existing financing and then sell it basically on new financing. So to make it simple, we buy owner finance or subject twos, right? So we buy the property via owner finance or subject to. We assume whatever debt or create whatever debt comes over here. We then take that and we now own the property based off purchasing it with that debt. We then take that property and sell it to someone else on new debt. And so what happens is now there's two positions. So there's a first position and a second position, and we are the owners of the second position. So whatever the difference is between my first position underlying and my second position underlying is what I get to take home every single month. So if I have a $1,000 principal and interest, and it's only the principal and interest, because what happens is whenever we sell on the owner finance, we get to pass on the taxes and insurance. So basically, simple terms is just wraps is creating two notes where you're usually the owner of the second position, or the position that's going to, go to the end borrower.
Yeah, no, solid. And I think that is such an amazing strategy, especially in today's market, right? Because you hear a lot of people wanting to get into real estate, and the issue they're having is they're not finding any long-term rentals. Everybody wants to be, get into long-term rentals is their first thing. They say save up whatever 20% is, which is pretty hard, I think, to do in general in today's
That's
market.
very hard.
But long story short, all I'm saying is this is a method for a lot of you guys out there who want to get into real estate, who don't necessarily know what to do, not only using, creative finance or owner finance as a strategy, but a way to make cash flow depending on, what entry fee that you have or what market that you're in. You can turn around, and if you have favorable terms, you can sell those terms to somebody else, at a higher rate. And that is how you make cash flow in today's market where people are screaming, hey, 1% rentals are dead.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because coming from the background that I have, right, rentals have been like my first love. I've never been interested in fix and flips. To me, they just never made that much sense whenever you can go and wholesale. But that's just to me, right? I mean, probably fix and flippers know better than I do. But I've always been way more attracted. Like my appetite and desire is always more towards, long-term style investments. And so on the basis of it, especially as I was just like young in my career and everything along those lines, I always thought that rentals were going to be my end all be all, right? Like I wanted to be the landlord. I wanted to, have long-term investments, that passive cash flow. And what I was realizing even pretty early on while I was working with the funds, I was like, do I not know how to like do math? Because like these deals do not, if they cash flow, they're cash flowing $200, I mean, and you have any types of vacancy, you have any types of maintenance that pulls up, insurance goes up, taxes go up, your cash flow is gone and it's fleeting every year. And so I was doing a lot of research over this, specifically this year for some presentations that I was looking at doing, because ultimately my end goal is to start my own fund. And I've had that end goal since I was 19 and got into real estate because I heard about syndications in real estate class. Whenever you're going through the finance section, for whatever reason, there's like one bullet point about syndications. And that just like blew my mind when I was like 18, right? And so working for the funds was like no mistake, like I saw the opportunity and like knew immediately, I was like, yes, that will get me closer to, what my ultimate end goal is. And I always thought that my fund would be centered around rentals, because I knew that my own philosophy is like long-term, delayed gratification and let things grow over time. And what I was realizing is like these rentals don't cash flow, I mean, especially not here in Texas where property taxes are just absolutely absurd. And I think a lot of people that buy in rentals don't realize that you need to add in the property taxes and the insurance to that. It's not just your debt service, and it's not just, a 10% maintenance fee. And so one of the stats that I learned while I was going through my research over the last couple of months was specifically here in Texas, insurance and taxes both since 2017 have gone up each over 20%.
Damn.
Yeah. And so you may have bought a property 5 years ago that you have good debt on and you were cash flowing for a long time, but now insurance is going up, taxes are going up, and your $500, $600 a month cash flow that you had is now turning into $200, $300 a month and could be gone next year, And so that was one of the things that really, as soon as I learned about the wraps and I saw the cash flow abilities that they had, I was just all in. And really, the wraps are not even my end game either. The best thing to actually be doing is for those same guys that have cash and are wanting to buy rentals, instead of buying the house cash, right? Still do that. But instead of now turning it into a rental where you're going to have to pay taxes and insurance every month, every little thing that goes wrong, the tenants are going to be calling you, or you're going to be paying at least 8% property management, all for your measly, $200 a month. Turn that into a owner finance note to a ITIN borrower where you can charge 8 to 12% interest. And now all you are is the owner of the mortgage. And so every month, the principal and interest payments come to you regardless of anything else that goes wrong, right? Like anything else that happens to the borrower, right? Like if they have to replace the roof, that's on them. If the taxes go up, that's on them because they're homeowner. They are the owner of the home. We are only the lien holder, right? So there's kind of like a joke that says like better to be a lien lord than a landlord, and it honestly rings super true.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Kev, what you got, bro? I know I got a lot more, but I want get the stage.
Now, talk about cash flow a lot now versus wholesaling. Being that you're not new to the game anymore, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? Would you say try to find more cash flow or do more wholesale?
Wholesale, dude. Wholesale. You got to learn how to do transactions at the end of the day. I mean, no matter how that is, right? Like whether you be an agent, you wholesale, like if you really want to be in the real estate game, you need to start doing transactions. I mean, I saw something today that there's like a percentage of real estate agents who haven't sold a house in over a year right now. I was happy to be a part of that hedge fund, only making $2,000 per transaction because I was doing a shit ton of transactions, which is adding to my experience. It's adding to my knowledge. I wouldn't be able to even these wrap deals are extremely hard. Like dealing with, you're essentially selling to a retail buyer who's a first-time buyer who already does not trust most of the system that's in place here because they're not from here. They don't really usually even speak, the language. And so it's like one of the most sensitive transactions in real estate you can be in. And I wouldn't be able to cultivate these types of deals to this day if it wasn't for my just vast knowledge in handling people and handling transactions and handling, the paperwork even, right? And so all that I have now came from my high volume of transactions. Plus, I still wholesale because wholesale makes you a lot of money if you can do it right. I mean, there's people out there who make I think the average probably right now is around 14,000 per deal, right? I mean, one wholesale deal can change your life when you're 18. Yeah. And so, a cash flow deal can change your life also, obviously, but not one. I mean, it can make your life nice. You can have $500 coming in a month, right? But I mean, that's not usually going to change people's lives too drastically. Whereas influx of 20K into someone's bank account, that's going to A, get them excited as hell, and B, I mean, that can change your life when you're young.
Yeah. Let me say this too with that, man, is like what you said right there, man. I have a friend I was talking with last week, and actually you may know him. Actually, you guys both may know him. He's in the sub 2 group. I ain't gonna name drop or anything. I won't put his business out there yet. But he is literally working on a deal, wholesaling, where he is working on a deal where it's like a $370 something $1,000 assignment fee right now, and he's selling to builders. So like when we say the power of real estate, we come on here every 2 weeks and we talk about real estate. We're not just saying it to blow smoke. Like this is literally life-changing money, and these are things you're not going to learn in the system. And forgive me, Kyle, I don't know if you said it, but did you go to college or straight out of high school you jumped into right into real estate?
I spent one semester at college and it wasn't gonna last there.
And guess what? You didn't need it. You did not need it, because
No.
look where you're at now, bro. Like
I
it's
didn't.
just
And
crazy.
I'm super blessed, dude, because really what happened, the thing that even kickstarted my whole real estate journey was one day my parents, I had already dropped out of like the big college that I was going to, you know, after the first semester, and I came back to like my hometown and I was just going through like community college. And one day my parents were like, yo, let's go to lunch today. And they sat me down and were like, hey, if you don't want to go to college, zero pressure from us. And literally that day I was like, I'm not going back to class tomorrow. Like I'm done. Like I hated all the schooling stuff. And so the way what inspired me to get into real estate, right? That was one of your original questions, is I do have a real estate background as far as my family goes. So my grandmother's been a property manager and a broker for, you know, she's still to this day going to the office, and she's like 65 now. Right. So ever since I was young, I was always kind of like introduced to real estate. But what ended up happening is after that day that my parents took me to have that lunch with me, they were like, but you still have to do something, right? Like, you're not just going to work some dead end job or, you know, anything like that. You still have to go and figure something out. So I ended up going on my days off. I was working at like just some like clothing store here in my hometown. On my days off, I would go to my grandma's office. And I remember, I literally still to this day, remember the very first day I walked into that office, and like my tasks were to like mess around on the computer for a little bit, 45 minutes, an hour messing around the computer. Like she had me like input a listing for her. And then she was like, all right, drive around the entire Metroplex to these like 6 different properties, put this lockbox here, pick up this sign there, do this, do that. And I'm like, so I just get to like go around and do shit all day? And she was like, yeah. I was like hooked from that first day. So, I mean, real estate's really one of those things that it's kind of cheesy, but it's like straight up a lifestyle. Like you have to really, if you're going to be successful in real estate, I feel like you guys can probably attest to it to a degree, is like you have to be in real estate. Like it's not just something you show up and do, you know? I mean, you have to be willing to answer your phone at 8 p.m. on a Saturday, you know, because something's going on. Like that's just the game. It's the game you play. But if you really actually, I feel like a lot of people who are really active in real estate, they like it, you know? I mean, we do it because we like it, not even because it's, you know, fruitful. I mean, it is fruitful, but it's fun at the same time and extremely fulfilling.
Oh yeah. Doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah.
Nope.
Sure. And I like that, man. And I got another question I want to ask here as well too, because you answered a lot of the questions that I had. But I think a question that if I was listening to this right now, and you know, I know you explained reps and what you do, what is your definition of what is your perfect deal? You know what I mean? If you were like, say, day one, you found a house, you're buying it subject to, doesn't cash flow as a long-term rental, you know, what makes sense for you?
So we know our avatar, right? We know our buyer. And so we know that the majority of our buyers, what they do on the day-to-day basis is they are either higher up in big commercial construction company. They have construction companies of their own. They're contractors. They're guys who run framing crews. You know, they're workers, right? They're blue collar. So our ideal product is affordable housing, right? So we like to stay below 350 sell price. So our acquisition price needs to be like max 300. We try to keep our exit monthly payment around $2,500 a month, total PITI. So like their monthly payment per month, including taxes and insurance, needs to be right around $2,500. So that means we know that we need to make sure that our, you know, once we factor in, if we're buying a subject to, we can see how much they pay in escrow. We can see the breakdown of their monthly payment. We just run the numbers, right? And we just want to make sure that we can cash flow, you know, close to like $600 gross per deal, which, and whenever you have a note, you know, the gross payment is basically the cash flow, because there's nothing that gets subtracted out of it besides like your own income taxes. We really like houses that are no HOAs, that they have ideally is something that has close to an acre or like right over an acre, you know, something that has some land so that there's room to park trailers or have like a big workshop, you know, something along those lines. We like to stay as close to 15,000 total entry as we can, because we know that the majority for like the average homestead buyer that we have walking around out there has about 30K to put down. So we like to try to stay as close to 15,000 as we can for our purchase. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the model right there. So we look for anything below 300K, try to keep it to as close to 15% or $15,000 total entry. And then, you know, just the PITI can't be ridiculously high, right? So 2,100, something along those lines, because we can go up to like 3,000 depending on the product, right? But typically what we're trying to do, or the average of the range that we're able to exit these deals, are 10% minimum down payment with a 8 to 12% interest rate. So if it's something that's like on an acre, you know, it's a 4-bedroom, it's a pretty clean house, we can usually get like 40 to 50K down for something like that. And we can charge, you know, 12% interest all day long. So those are really the ideal deals that we're looking for, are those ones that are on some acreage.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'd say too, man, like with it, that is, again, it's so awesome to hear you say this, because I think wraps, that is something that myself, like I'm trying to do, you know, more of. And I think that's how we even got connected like months ago, where I was doing my first one. And I just started reaching out to folks in the sub-2 community who are also doing it, because I wanted to learn more, man. Because for us, like some of the videos, like, I don't know it. I've heard Pace talk about it. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. And I was like, well, let's just see how it goes, man. Because we had a house that, again, after everything is said and done, I think it would have made like $100 as a long-term rental. Had a 3% interest rate in a great area. I'm in Alabama, and literally, it can be as simple. I know you have a buyer's list, and I know you guys do other marketing strategies, but for like us, we literally put it on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and let that thing run. And I mean, it took about 2.5 months, 3 months for us to find somebody. But once we found somebody, we turned it over, and we probably could have demanded a higher rate. But like all in all, to say we're making like pure cash flow right around like $550 a month from that one deal. It is crazy, because I know you're doing those in scale. I really don't want it to get lost, like the amount of cash flow that you could be making from this, because this isn't 2012 or 2013 or whenever you could buy 1% rentals prior to that, because markets are changing. Metropolitan areas, they are growing at a rapid pace, and a lot of like real estate is appreciating regardless of what's going on in the market. Houses are getting more expensive. The cost of living is getting more expensive. It's harder to buy a house. It's harder to be a landlord. It's harder to buy a rental in today's market. So it's important that you understand these different strategies, because this can not only change your life, but take you to that next level and hope you accomplish, what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, no doubt. I think for anyone out there that's listening that wants to know if whatever market they're in is going to be eligible for like a good market for wraps, I can tell you off the back, like Texas is probably the leading market when it comes to wraps. The driving factor that makes this all possible is I would guess that at least 90 to 95% of the ITIN borrowers are predominantly Hispanic. So you really want to make sure that you're in very Hispanic driven communities for it to be like an ideal wrap. And then also if you want to divulge into like really trying to do some of these like more wraps like this, you need to make sure you have someone that you can trust on your team, or find someone in your market that is already doing these, that has Spanish speakers on the team, or speak Spanish themselves, or whatever it may be. But Spanish speaking is definitely going to be one of the biggest aspects to being able to run these types of wraps. Did you experience that with your wrap, Rich?
So we had a lot of folks reach out. Ours is Huntsville, Alabama, so there's not a crazy amount, large Hispanic population. But we had a decent amount of reach out. I know somebody in Huntsville who's literally doing the wraps, and she is crushing it. And literally, she markets with a lot of Hispanics as well too. But ours was ended up being, it was a black dude, had a couple bankruptcies, but he had a good job, and they were making a decent amount of cash, right? And like I am of the vein, and I'm sure you're the same, and I know Kevin, you're the same. Like just because you've made mistakes in the past I'm not going to penalize you for that. And I don't think life should as well. So we ended up giving him like we gave him a 6% interest rate. We had it at 3%. It hit our numbers. So I was like, all right, why try to charge more if we're getting exactly what we wanted? This dude got a great house, and I know if he went to the bank to try to qualify, he wouldn't be able to get it. He probably wouldn't even qualify, but if he did, he'd probably get like an 8 or 9% from the bank, and we sold him a house at 6%. So, and Pace talks about this a lot too. There's also a housing crisis in the country, right? Cost of living is going up. Shared spaces are going up where people are living. A lot of people are living with roommates or living in apartments or renting. This is the answer. I believe this is truly the answer. This and co-living is the answer to the housing crisis in the country, I believe, is wraps and buying houses with creative finance.
Yeah, man. I agree with that for sure. It's getting to a place now in America, man, where, like I said, you said before, man, you won't even be able to buy a house if you're not creative. You know what I mean? Inflation going up, cost of living. If you can't do it creatively, a fix and flip or, a wrap or a subject to, I mean, you might not be able to get a house on your own.
Yeah, it's gotten tough. I mean, hopefully, with things coming down, this election years are always hard, right? We've had probably, I would say, like a last 2.5, 3 years, we've had pretty rough years as far as the real estate market goes, but we just came out of the most ridiculous, years we've ever had right before that. So it only makes sense that it had to, the music doesn't play forever, right? I think that what we've experienced in the last year specifically is a record low number of just transactions in general, right? And so whenever transactions are low, obviously everything is going to be tough because there's just not buyers in the marketplace.
Right.
But and then a lot of the times right now with interest rates being high, the sellers who are sitting on, I think that what we've been experiencing in the market with the low transaction volume isn't necessarily a reflection of bad economics in the market. I think it's actually good economics. I think what's been going on is these sellers are locked in with equity, like they have high equity, they have a low interest rate. If they were to sell their house, they now have to go buy a worse house at higher interest or buy a better house, but inflation, appreciation was so high over the last couple of years as well. So, you're probably going to be trading value for value, right? You're probably not going to be upgrading houses that significantly, unless of course you had just, massive raises in your income. And so the smart, or not even the smart, just people who aren't facing extreme hardship are riding out the storm right now, and they have lower payments that they can still afford. Maybe they can't afford to travel and, buy new cars or things along these lines, but the first thing that's going to get paid out of everyone's, payment is their house payment, right? And so I think that as interest rates come back down, we're going to see a lot more of that equity start to free up. And subject twos are probably going to go down a little bit as interest rates go down. And that's perfectly okay. I think actually I want to be clear, I'm not one of the guys that's like every single appointment I walk into, I want to shove subject to down people's throats.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely important for especially the newer guys on here to understand that, subject to is an answer to a problem. So if there's not an actual problem, subject to should not be an answer. So for our people, I mean, unless it's a very savvy, somewhat investor seller who understands what they're getting themselves into. But for all the people that are, calling every single house that's listed and trying to shove subject to down people's throats, unless there's a sinking ship already, I don't believe that subject to is a good solution, right? For the sellers. So if they're facing bankruptcy, if they're facing foreclosure, if their only options are foreclosure and short sell, subject to is the perfect answer. It is in fact the solution. But I do think that there's been a lot of properties that have been trading as of recently on subject to that sellers don't fully understand what they're getting themselves into, and that it could cause some issues down the road. Just my 2 cents, but I think that we'll see cash deals start to come back really, really heavy, hopefully in the next 2-3 years, or I'm sorry, in the next year.
Yeah, no, I hope so, man. Because I like, even like as a wholesaler, I've always pitched like, hey, cash first and then anything else like second, because
cash is king.
I was about to say the exact same thing, man. Regardless of anybody said, cash is always king.
Like to Kevin's question earlier about wholesaling versus trying to go after cash flow. Like whenever you're good in this business, you do a little bit of everything. I mean, if you're going to have a full rounded business, you should be looking at deals as long-term rentals if you can afford it. Long-term rentals are great if you have a portfolio of cash flow that can help sustain long-term rentals, because one of the downsides to like our wrap scenarios is we don't have the same tax appreciation tax depreciation, and we don't have appreciation. So if you're someone who's working a W-2, that you do still see rentals as like a way to offset your taxes and like a retirement account for maybe your young 30s, young 40s even, and you want to buy a house and maybe cash flow is not that important to you because you already have a high paying W-2. Rentals still have their place as well because you're going to get mortgage pay down, you're going to get equity, you're going to have tax write-offs every single year. The model of buying 1 or 2 rentals a year if you already are in W-2 it's still not a bad model. I think it's just important to understand that there are flexible different strategies out there that focus on different aspects of real estate. And if cash flow is important to you, then what I see as the best, cash flow model right now would be absolutely the wraps or even just general first position homestead I-10 notes, right? So, I mean, if you're someone who's sitting there with a W-2 and you're like, damn, I'd love to own a note, but I don't know what do I do? I go buy a house from a wholesaler. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know anyone who even knows what a wrap is. How am I supposed to, because I mean, like I said, it's the most difficult transaction in real estate as far as I'm concerned. And so if you don't know real estate, it's going to be really hard to pull off. Well, you can go buy a note tomorrow. I mean, there's I forget the name of the website. I'll send it over to you, Rich, so you can like put it in the description or whatever it may be. But there's, the same way that there's Investor Lift for single family properties all over the nation, there's a website that people post their notes on for sale all over the nation. So, I mean, you can actually go and become just a note investor as long as you have, a little bit of capital tomorrow, and you don't have to worry about learning the ins and outs or even dealing with people, right? You can literally just find one online or find someone in your market that's selling that is prominent in the note space. Tell them, hey, I'd love to buy, a note from you, or if you know anyone else selling notes, and you can go buy a note and start receiving cash flow, the very next month without having to go through any of the processes that have to do with buying a house and then trying to sell the house and title company twice, 2 sets of documents, transaction coordinating. I mean, there's a lot of it that goes into it, as you guys know.
Yeah, no, that's a big piece because that's something that myself, like I heard about in the beginning, but haven't even really thought about purchasing notes until literally you just said that. And I think that is something that is almost, I don't know if I would say like it's a lost art, but it's like something nobody really even, like people really don't talk about. You know what I mean? I really don't hear much about it anymore.
So what it is, man, is retail investors, right? I think maybe 2% across the board of retail investment capital is put into alternative investments, which a note or a mortgage is considered an alternative investment, right? For Wall Street, right? I think it's something like, I'm going to be completely wrong on how much but I know it's a lot higher, right? They're closer to like 30, 40% in alternative investments or mortgages, right? So it's one of those things that it's kept secret from the public because it's controlled top down institutionally to where, that's what banks do all day long. Banks, One of the biggest buyers of I-10 notes is, I mean, here in Texas, every single Texas local bank is going to be buying I-10 notes from guys that they trust to go run them. I know a guy, like one of my mentors and advisors, who had a credit line set up with him through Prosperity Bank, which is one of the bigger local banks, I think, here in Texas. And he had that credit line set up specifically because they would loan him the first position to go buy the single family property, go turn it into a mortgage note, and they would automatically buy it from him as soon as he did that. So they would literally lend him the money, because what happened was in I think 2008, whenever Dodd-Frank laws came into place, it became really difficult for the larger institutionals to write I-10 notes because they just have to have really strict stipulations, whereas a private person, a private lender can have their, there's no stipulations I have to follow, right? I mean, there's processes I have to go through, but someone could have $10 in their bank account, and if I was stupid, I could say, okay, great, we're going to sell them this house, right? Like legally I can do that as long as I follow the process. Obviously I don't do that, but there's not like, I don't have to require 20% down payment. I don't have to require a certain LTV. I don't have to require a certain debt to income ratio, right? I can choose at the end of the day, the same way you did, Rich. Hey, this guy's been through a rough patch. I have confidence in his ability that he's going to come in. He has a good job. I checked his bank statements. I'm going to sell him the house, handshake deal, and that's perfectly legal and okay. But for banks, they have to have extremely tight regulations and stipulations ever since the Dodd-Frank laws. And so because of that, it's harder for them to go out and write these loans, but that doesn't mean that they still don't want to own these loans. And so I think that the main reason most people don't know more about the note investing aspect of things is simply because it's completely controlled and ran through, the institutionals, and institutionals don't want that to become very mainstream because, it's kind of the best kept secret.
Yeah. Hey, and that's what we're all about here, man. We're all about sharing all that. So I'm glad you even said that. I'm glad you said that for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. But I know we're getting close to wrapping up, man. Kevin, you got any last questions? I know I got some, but I want to turn it over to you, brother.
Well, I mean, I would say for someone coming new into the industry, what would you suggest they start at? Would it be as an agent? Would it be a wholesaler? Would it be starting in commercial? From your perspective, what would you tell that person looking to get in the industry right now?
I think if you want to dip your toes in, kind of just start to dabbling, wholesaling's probably the best way to go about it. If you're serious about really getting into real estate, definitely get your real estate license. From my own experience, I think a lot of wholesaler investor guys say, screw having a license. But to me, if I didn't start off as a regular, what it is I think that local brokerages in any market, if you have a real estate license, will put you through some pretty good, like local brokerages, not necessarily your big, EXPs and Keller Williams and stuff like that. But if you find a local brokerage where the broker's there, you can get some really good hands-on mentoring, especially people who are maybe even providing leads for you. So, I think that the best suggestion I can have for anyone that's getting started is don't worry about how much you're going to make on anything. You're not at a position to even worry about that at this point. Only worry about actually trying to make $1 in real estate. Literally, like only just go be a part of a transaction, whether that's being an ISA for a realtor or a wholesaler, which the way I first started, whenever I first actually got my first job in real estate, was I was an inside sales associate. So I was literally cold calling 7 hours a day on behalf of a realtor, just trying to set him listing appointments. So I think that anything you can do where you can start to get paid inside real estate, even if that doesn't mean you're, making the $20,000 assignment fees, but you're getting paid $10, $15 an hour to be a realtor's assistant, or, be a cold caller on a wholesale team, or start off as an acquisition assistant or whatever it may be, to where you can actually start earning money in real estate so that you can learn at the same time you're making money, and then developing whatever skill sets that you are aptitude to be able to develop. Like for me, for example, sales and the phone game was always like, that's what really kickstarted my career, was my ability to make cold calls and just, make deals happen over the phone. But some people are maybe better at, doing the organization, right, and marketing aspect of things and Facebook ads and stuff like that, right? Whatever skill sets, if you're older, you probably have some type of skill set you've developed through your already W-2, right? Maybe it's your marketing, whatever it may be. What I love about real estate is no matter what you're good at, if it's technology, if you're an engineer, technology, anything, right, you can apply it to a certain aspect of real estate. So just like to make it super simple, if you're brand new and you want to get started in real estate, and especially if you're young, just go try to figure out how you can make the first dollar in real estate. Don't worry about the first 10, 15, 20,000. That's all going to come. I always even tell my own team, like, have a first down mentality, not a touchdown mentality. So what I mean by that is, like, we are here to get first downs. We'll go run the ball and get 3 yards every play, because what that's going to do is we're going to lead to a touchdown. If we throw it deep every single play, the chances that we get a touchdown are not going to be very good. We're probably going to get intercepted. That's whenever people, whenever people are new, they always feel like they're really susceptible to be getting like fucked over, right? They feel like they're going to get taken advantage of. And most of the time it's because they think that they deserve more than they do deserve. If you have one conversation with an agent that has a listed property and they say, sure, maybe I'm interested in subject to, and then you try to bring that to someone else to actually close it for you, you should be happy if you make $1,000 on a transaction of that nature, because you really did not do anything besides call this opportunity to someone else's attention that he then had to actually go turn into an opportunity. It wasn't really an opportunity. It was the sniff of an opportunity at best. And so, I think that's the biggest thing is I think that too many people, when they first get started in real estate, they're just trying to score those touchdowns on the very first play that they run. And they just need to be more worried about running the first play more than they are, trying to go demand how much they make or anything along those lines. Just, I always say, like, especially with, social media and things along these lines and these, subject to communities and all these different communities, right? It's really, really easy to get caught up in, oh, this guy's really big on social media. I need to only learn from him. But don't discount the agent in your market who is a stay-at-home mom but sells 50 houses a year. She knows real estate just as well, if not better, than some of these guys that are really, even teaching stuff on social media. So I think just try to find people in your local market that are really doing the business and just go work for them, go intern for them, go shadow them at their office, right? Like, just go get around it. And as long as you, have the right mentality and the right work ethic, you'll be able to figure it out from there.
No, that sounds good right there, man. I like that. I like that first down mentality. Yo, that's going to stick with me, bro.
Yes, sir.
That's my new quote, man. Next time I talk about soldiers, I'm going to say that. I'm like, people can't have a first down mentality, the first down mentality. They be like, you invented that? I'm be like, yeah, that was me. That was all me.
Hey, I heard it on like an Instagram reel. I can't take very much.
Hey, it's yours now, bro. We'll cut that piece out. That's yours. That's your quote. That's your quote.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah, man.
That's dope.
But yeah, now I say, man, we're about wrapping up. We got about 2 minutes left, man. So I would just say, man, thank you so much for even, hopping on here. I know it was a little last minute, what I mean? But I think, hey, that's probably be one of the best episodes we've had so far, just with your knowledge and your, down to earthness. You know what I mean? And how old are you right now?
26.
26, man. Like, and look where we're at. I don't know, I'm 28, and I know Kevin's like 65. So I'm playing, but nah, man. I just want to say thank you, man. This has been nothing short of a blessing. This is awesome, man. I still owe you a deal in Dallas, so I got to bring something that we can knock down together, bro.
Let's do it. Let's do it, bro. Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you having me on. I didn't realize I was the first guest, dude. That's awesome. I really appreciate you guys. Whenever I didn't even honestly know what the name was, and I saw the email come over. I was like, and it was like Assets Over Money, I think is right. And I was like, damn, that's a super good name. And that really, that goes to even like what I'm saying, is don't get like, I know a lot of the questions were catered towards newer wholesalers, right? But I want to talk to the people who are doing 3 to 5 deals a month already as wholesalers. Wholesaling starts over after every closing. My deals are going to pay me for the next 30 years. And I can compound that every single month I add one of those to it. So if you are already doing good at wholesaling, you need to figure out how to actually start keeping some of these deals, because I was the culprit of it. I mean, as an agent and a wholesaler, I've sold, houses for 6 years. Whereas if I would have figured out how to be a little bit more in the cash flow game earlier on, who knows where I'd already be. But everyone's journey is their journey, And so I think that keep it local. Don't get overwhelmed with everything that is moving around you. Don't chase nationwide virtual wholesaling and stuff like that until you actually have done a deal in your backyard. I mean, the easiest thing to do is stick hyper local, and I try to remind that to anyone I talk to as far as that's relatively newer.
Cool. That's good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is awesome, man. I can't wait to. Yeah, I owe you. So what I'm gonna do after this, man? Let me just say bye, and I'll just put us back in the room. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will post this. You're going to see some clips. If you want to follow Kyle, and I will post his Instagram. If you already see my story, I will post his Instagram. I'll post all his socials with this, or just reach out to me. And if we need to do a part 2, ain't no thing but to bring him back, because I already got somebody who reached out to me asking about if this is going to be recorded. So it's definitely going to be recorded, and you might gain some followers hopefully as well too. But this is a lot of value added.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. Y'all be cool.
Appreciate you guys.